Okay, so this is the handle in Tiger Maple. As I said, we need to install the blade and install the decorative little piece of brass in the end. So this is the Honey Brook tool marking knife blade that will go in it, made custom for me by Hawk Tools. It's got a dual bevel on it so that it can be used like this, or you can flip the knife around and register the back of the blade up against your square or your ruler, what have you, and so it can be used on either side. So I'm going to, first I'm going to protect the surface of the blade by wrapping it in some painter's tape. That's so that when I drive the handle in, I'll put the blade into the vise, and when I drive the handle in, I don't want it to get scratched or damaged. So I need to mix up a little bit of epoxy and then we'll be good to go. Okay, so I fit the blade by just driving it on, and then I apply some epoxy just for a little bit of extra support, and also to fill up the hole that's left. The tang of the blade is rectangular and obviously the hole is round, so that gap needs to be filled. So I just do that with some 5-minute epoxy. And this has, the instructions say it's got like a 3-minute, it should be used within 3 minutes. And I found that to be true. Anything much longer than that, and it really begins to set up and be hard to deal with. But I do like to let it set up a little bit because my goal is not, the tang, goes probably this far, this far into the handle, and I don't need or want to fill up that hole. It's not necessary, and it's kind of tedious. So when this is set up a little bit, it tends to just flow into the top of the hole and stay there. Now I want to protect the handle because inevitably I will get some of this epoxy on my hand. So I just use this razor blade as a little spatula, and I just push it down in there. And often I'll need to do this in 2 different settings. So I'll apply it, and usually it'll settle a little bit, and then I'll come back maybe later this afternoon and put in another layer so that it's filled and flush to the top of the handle. That looks good. The epoxy right now is just about at its perfect consistency. It's pretty thick, but I can still work with it. In a minute, it's going to get so thick that it starts to get kind of stringy, and then you're done. There's not much you can do with it at that point. Okay. So I think you can see that's there filled to the top. I can see on one side it's already beginning to settle a little bit, but it just gives it extra durability, holds the blade firmly into the handle, and then just from an aesthetic standpoint, it just looks better to have that hole filled, even though the hole is still apparent. It just gives it kind of a finished look. Okay. So I'm going to set this aside and let the epoxy set for a couple minutes. It says 5 minutes, but I usually leave it a little bit longer. And then I'm going to come back and we'll install this little brass pin, the decorative inlay in the end, and then we'll just be just about set. So I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, so we are back with this marking knife, and that epoxy has set up nicely. I do think I'm going to need to touch it up just a little bit. It's settled in one side, but I'll touch that up and let it sit overnight. But for now, I'm just going to gently put this into the vise and kind of look for center. And then we'll drill a hole. All right, and then a little bit of CA into that hole, CA glue. Okay, so then we just need to file that flush, touch it up with a little bit of, hit it with some abrasive paper, and then touch up the shellac. So let's do that. There we go. Now we just got to hit it with some shellac and we'll be good to go. So I'm just applying a little bit of shellac to the end of this marking knife now that I've got this, the brass inlay in the handle. And I'll let this shellac cure overnight and then probably hit it with another coat or two tomorrow. Now there's a couple things that I need to do before this is ready to go out. I don't know if the camera will pick up on it, but there is some epoxy residue left on the blade or on the ferrule. So to remedy that, I'm just going to come in here with some steel wool and polish that up. Comes off pretty easily, he said. Yeah, There's not too much of it, so it's not bad. And the brass gets polished like this before it goes out anyway. And then there is a little bit of epoxy residue on the blade. So to deal with that, we just come in with two things. Clean up the bench a little bit. So I just take a shop towel and spray a little bit of acetone on it, and taking care not to get it on the finish, I just wipe this down. Just to clean up the blade. And then I see that there's a little bit of epoxy on the blade, and I'll just take a razor blade and I'll just come in here and just carefully just scrape that away. There we go. And that's it. So this is the Honey Brook Marking Knife. Now, I said yesterday, I think when I was turning the handle, this can be held, I think, two ways. Let me just cinch up a piece of wood in the vise. And I wouldn't normally sit to do this, but for the benefit of the video. So you come in here, you've got your square, and you register the flat edge against your square. And you can see that I'm holding it like you would a pencil. You could also hold it like this. And if you kind of tuck your finger under the end of the handle, I need to stand for this. I mean, that's another way that you can hold it, and it gives a nice crisp line that you can use. So that's the Honey Brook Marking Knife, ready to go. This one is going across the pond to England. So, as always, if you like this video, please click like. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And if you've got other friends that might like the channel, let them know. Thanks for watching.